Ayanam namasritam dharam jaivanarottamam daivam sarasatim vyasam tato jayavadi. Nashtapreshu padveshu nityam bhagavata sevya bhagati uttamashoki bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. Nigama kapatur garitam padam shukamukanam mitadvapi samitam pipata bhagavatam rasam malayam maharorosikububi bhakam. Krishna swadam apagate dhammagini karonashtad vishamesha parana kodinoditam. Twamaviyadabhishuta vishutam vibhu samapyanam virambaksaram prakyahitu hormonam sankleshanavanamusanti nanyataha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dino Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Kanta Namoshte Jayatam Sarito Pango Mama Manir Madir Gati Matsavashaparam Boja Radha Namada Namahanam Seeman Rasarasaram Vamsi Vedakarshan Venushan Urpago Gopanata Sriyasanha Divyad Brindaranya Kapadrumada Srimad Radnakarashima Sanishto Shri Sri Radha Shila Govinda Prasala Vihi Seva Manushmarami Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanya Taya Cha Jigari Taya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Mangalang Bhagavan Vishnu Magaram Guru Dhadija Mangaram Panidikaksho Manganaya Danohriya Om Narayanaya Vidmahi Vasudevaya Dhimahi Tano Vishnu Prachodhyate Om Mahadevi Cha Vidmahi Vishnu Patni Cha Dhimahi Tano Lakshmi Prachodhyate Mahalakshmi Namastubhyam Namastubhyam Saresari Hari Priya Namastubhyam Namastubhyam Jayadin Taptikanjana Gonagira Harivindavaneshwari Vishavanasute Devi Pradhamani Hari Priya Namaham Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutare Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Dharamana Sarasati Devi Gauravani Pachari Nirvisheshanvari Bhaskara Desana Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Welcome. Today is the auspicious day. Not only is it Wisdom Wednesday, but it's also Gita Jayanti, the day Lord Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita 5,300 years ago. This is also the month of December. If you break down the meaning of December from a Sanskrit point of view, Das means 10 and Amba means month. December means 10th month. In fact, when you think about it, if the calendar were to start in the beginning in spring, first day of spring, it would be 1st of March. So that would make, in fact, December the 10th month, not the 12th month. And also, also it's also called in India the month of Krishna. Christmas. We're coming up on Christmas. Let's look at Christmas, the word Christmas from a Sanskrit point of view. Mas is the word for month. Christ is very similar to Krishna. So Christmas would be the month of Krishna. And December is known as the month of Krishna because the war of Kurukshetra took place in the month of December for the most part, were 18 days of the war, most of which fell within what is now known as the month of December. And in the onset of the war, Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna just before the hostilities ensued. So because the great Bhagavad Gita was spoken in the month of December, therefore December is called Christmas, or the month of Krishna. Something to think about. And today is the day. Tonight in the Salt Lake City Temple, the devotees will be chanting the entire Gita from 5 to 7 in the evening if you want to join them. We'll just do the 108 principal verses of the Bhagavad Gita here in Spanish Fork. I was headed up to Salt Lake City to pick up Gopinath Priya's supposed to fly from Delhi to Minneapolis, and then from Minneapolis, and his original arrival time was 4:40 this afternoon, but he just sent me something on WhatsApp that his flight from Delhi was delayed 4 till 12, 8 hours. So he won't catch that original flight from Minneapolis. Be here sometime probably late tonight or tomorrow. So we're waiting on developments from there. Otherwise, anything you do today on this auspicious day, chanting or fasting till moonrise, reading extra scriptures, will be multiplied. The effect will be multiplied many times over. So if we were to intersect our comments, things we've been talking about last few days, with the fact that this is Gita Jayanti, what I would say is this, that in Krishna's message to his best friend in Arjuna, if you're speaking to your best friend, and not casually, there's a situation which is really challenging your best friend. There's a situation which has arisen that could do your best friend in. Your best friend is completely stressed out. He's lost his composure. He's trembling. Imagine your best friend is an athlete, a tremendous athlete, a scholar, and yet he's in over his head. He's gotten into a situation in which his physical body has failed to support him. He's trembling like a child, crying. The situation is too much for his mental equipment to cope with. He's confused. He's bewildered. He's in over his head. So what you're going to speak to your friend at this point is going to be the best thing you know. The best thing you know. Bhagavad Gita is a conversation between Krishna and his best friend Arjuna. The situation is such that his best friend is about to have a nervous breakdown or even commit suicide. The situation is so overwhelming. Arjuna's mind, intellect, physical prowess, as amazing as it is, are outmatched by the situation here. Just from the context, just from the circumstances. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God. He's the reservoir of knowledge. He created all living beings. He created us to love us. He wants the best for us. His faithful servant, life after life after life, Arjuna, is suicidal now with depression and anxiety. So you tell me, what's going to be the level? What's going to be the category of knowledge that Krishna is now going to impart to Arjuna? He's going to speak 700 words to Arjuna. The Bhagavad Gita, divided into 18 chapters. So you're going to speak something casual, something light, something joking, something tangential. You see where I'm going with this, I hope. What Krishna is going to speak on this day, 5,300 years ago, to his friend and disciple Arjuna is absolutely, without any shadow of a doubt, the highest level of transcendental knowledge that has ever been, or perhaps ever will be spoken in spiritual history throughout all of the many, many universes. Because there's no one more intimate to Krishna and Arjuna, and there is no more crushing situation than the situation that Arjuna finds himself in. So to help out his number one buddy, his number one bro, his number one homie, in the situation which could not possibly get any worse, Krishna is going to come up with the best he's got. He's going to bring it, unfiltered, unalterated, unadulterated. And what is the message of the Bhagavad Gita? Some people would say it's study and become a great scholar. Some people would say it's do good. I've heard any number of Indians in the 50 years that I've been a devotee say, yes, I know Gita, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, do what you want. Excuse me? Excuse me? Now the words are there. Krishna says, do what you want. But there were 700 words of advice and direction prior to that. It wasn't like Krishna said, do what you want, and then the whole Bhagavad Gita was 2 sentences long. Boss, no, excuse me, you, my friend, do not know anything about the Bhagavad Gita. You're a fool to even say so. Sure, Krishna says, Karishe Vachanam Jana. He says to Arjuna, do what you want, but after 700 verses of instruction. And what is the essence of all that instruction? Not knowledge, not yoga, not works, but bhakti is the highest, the best, the most powerful, the most uplifting, the most enlightening. It's not jnana, it's not karma, it's not yoga, which will get you to the ultimate destination in life, destination to which you're meant to go, but it is bhakti. It is unalloyed devotion. Bhaktya mama vijanatiya. Anybody who tells you that there's any other message in the Gita is a fool, and they're misleading you. Bhakti. As we mentioned yesterday, the path of jnana gets you so far. Through exercise of our intellect, we can come to understand that we're not this body, we're spirit. That's the perfection of intellectualism. But then there's a pitfall. Having reached the furthest extent of your intellectual powers, which are themselves are material, which are finite, and which are limited, you conclude that I am spirit. But then, concluding that you're spirit, the problem is that in almost every case, the intellectual then says, I'm God, because God is spirit and I'm spirit. I'm spirit, God is spirit, God is spirit, I'm spirit, therefore I'm God. That means knowledge can only take you so far. And in fact, the place it takes you is a pitfall. If in the cultivation of your knowledge, you've incorporated bhakti, you have a chance to go beyond, you have a chance to graduate and not fall into the pit of thinking that you're God. But if your God has been unenriched by bhakti, then you're going to go to a certain point, you're going to get stuck, and you're going to become an offender. Many impersonalists, monists means God and I are one, criticize the devotees. They create fatal offenses at the feet of the great devotees like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Madhvacharya, Ramanubhacharya, Vyasadeva, Narada Muni, by saying the devotional path is inferior. The path of knowledge is superior. The path of yoga is superior. Those paths are not superior. They're very troublesome. How many people are able to study and memorize vast sections of the Vedas? You have to have been gifted. And even having been gifted, it takes many, many years of study to become conversant in Vedic literatures, to become known as a Muni, as a sage. And yet, even the sages who have gone as far as their intellect can take them, it is said, Avashuddha Buddhi, their knowledge is incomplete. Their knowledge is partial. In one Back to Godhead article I read a number of years ago, the example was given of the kamikaze pilots. Just recently, we had the anniversary, another anniversary, not nearly such a happy anniversary as the anniversary of Krishna speaking the Bhagavad Gita, but it was the anniversary of Pearl Harbor. I think it was December 6, 1941, when the Japanese hit the United States fleet stationed in Honolulu there. They had taught they had trained, given the kamikaze pilots planes that would take off but not land. They knew these planes would be used themselves as weapons, that after the bombs were dropped, then the pilots would fly the planes into the ships suicidally. So this happened in Pearl Harbor, Midway, all through the Pacific Naval War. The pilots were trained to take off but not to land. They were trained to navigate to their target but not to come back. So they had knowledge, they knew how to take off, they knew how to reach their destination, and they knew how to fly the plane into the smokestack of the cruiser or destroyer or battleship that they were targeting. They didn't know how to land. They didn't know how to navigate back home. So they had knowledge, but it was partial knowledge, and it wasn't, it was not, partial knowledge doesn't really do anyone any permanent good. You can get to the point of thinking you're one with God, but if you don't go through that to the higher category of knowledge, what's beyond oneness, what's beyond thinking that I am spirit, God is spirit, therefore I am God. Beyond that, which you cannot reach just by intellectual powers alone. You can only reach it by receiving instruction from the Lord through the chain of succession. cannot reach that knowledge by adopting the ascending process. You have to adopt humility and let that knowledge reach you as it descends through the disciplic succession. That means the pride that comes with a scholar is antithetical to ultimate spiritual success. To go beyond the misconception that I and God are one has to understand this, that spirit itself has categories. Spirit is not homogeneous. Spirit is not undifferentiated. It has categories. A naive person would say, oh, we're all Americans. I'm an American. Biden's American. The head of the armed forces is American. We're all Americans. There's no difference between us. Well, that's only true partially. We're all Americans by citizenship, by birth. But there's also categories of Americans. I don't have the power of Biden. I don't have power of the general who's chief of the armed forces. I don't have the power of who's headed up NASA. I don't have the power of police chiefs, military commanders. Well, it's true to say we're all Americans, but that's not the end of it. That's only, in fact, the beginning of it, because after understanding that we're Americans, then it's important to understand, to categorize the Americans in terms of power and influence. I'm an American, Biden's American, but Biden has much more power than I do. So beyond the concept of monism is the truer level of realization that I am a small spirit and God is a great spirit. So I'm not God. I'm not the enjoyer. I'm not one with God. I am a servant. I am a part. God is the whole and I'm a part. If you say the finger is the same as the body, what you're saying is the finger is made of the same flesh and blood as the body. But no one in their right mind would say the finger is the same as the body in terms of capabilities. The finger can only pick up things. It's limited in function. However, the body taken as a whole can hear, can see, can touch, can taste, it can speak, can run, it can jump, none of which the finger can do. Finger can only do one function. The body taken as a whole can do thousands and thousands of functions. So to say that the finger and the body are one is misleading. Finger and the body are only one in terms of their composition. Otherwise, the body is much more powerful than the finger. So the part can be equal to the whole qualitatively, but the part is never equal to the whole from a quantitative point of view. So this purification of intellect, this graduation from monism to dualism, can only come about due to association with a bona fide practicing bhakti yoga. This brings us back to the special nature of this particular day, commemorating Krishna speaking of the Bhagavad Gita. He's giving the highest level of knowledge to his friend and disciple Arjuna in the time of his greatest stress. And through Arjuna, we're getting the benefit. We're getting the same conversation that Arjuna received. It cured Arjuna's problem. It resolved his doubts. It reversed his paralysis. It dried up his tears. He got firmly fixed in determination and resolved at the end of hearing the seven. Yes, Krishna said, do what you want to do. So what did Arjuna want to do after hearing the seven words? He wanted to do what Krishna wanted him to do. He didn't fall into the trap of thinking that he was God, because he was clearly outmatched by the situation, the circumstances, which were not of his own creation. Krishna created that dilemma in order to test Arjuna and to showcase him, to show throughout the whole world the superiority of those who keep God first place. Arjuna passed the test, he fought the battle, and we glorify him 5,300 years later. It's not even Krishna we glorify on this day as much as we glorify Arjuna, because he got it. He sat patiently after having surrendered to Krishna, and he listened to Krishna with sincerity. He asked good, hard questions of Krishna. He resolved all of his doubts. And when his doubts were resolved, he went on to act in such a magnificent, glorious and devotional way that he sets the standard. He's the benchmark for devotees for thousands and thousands of years hereafter. Karma yoga, just like Jnana yoga, can only take you to a certain point. It's a point of incomplete half knowledge, whereby the intellect still remains impure without the extra element of bhakti to give the final fell stroke of purification. Similarly, karma yoga, it says in the Bhagavad Gita, the problem with karma yoga, good actions to get a good result, is that a result of the actions you perform now in this life, you can ensure yourself in your next birth to be elevated to heavenly planets, or you'll enjoy a much higher standard of living. Sinya panya mortikala bishanti. However, when the sum total, when your karmic balance, credits are exhausted, then you come back down, take another birth on earth. Sometimes karma yoga, good actions here, elevation to heavenly planet, rebirth here, compared like a Ferris wheel, up, down, up, down. So the benefits of karma, of righteous actions, good karma, reach a certain point and then they retract. You reach a certain point, you plateau, have a wonderful lifetime on the heavenly planets, and then it's over and you find yourself back on the earthly planets. There's a story in ninth canto, I think, of Jayanti. Jayanti was had performed many, many pious activities on earth, horse sacrifices, offerings, and sponsoring, protecting, giving charity to the Brahmins. So he went to the heavenly, Nahusha, it wasn't Yati, it was Nahusha. This is described in the 10th canto. Nahusha went to the heavenly planets and he lived. He was he had so much pious act, so much pious credit accumulated from his life as a king on the earth that he was in the heavenly planets for hundreds of thousands of years. He began to take it for granted, his position there. And he got insulting towards Indra, the Lord of the heavenly planets. He would insult Indra. He would disrespect Indra. He'd been there for so long, and he was so blessed with good looks and fortune and vigor and health and women and so on and so forth. He just started taking it for granted. And I forget this specific instance, but one time he said something particularly insulted to Indra. And paradoxically, Indra was not particularly upset. Indra had been upset by the various slights and offenses that Nahusha had made over the course of many years. But now Nahusha had gone somewhere he'd never gone before. He'd stepped over a line and just said something that was really out of place in the heavenly planets. Because after all, the inhabitants of the heavenly planets get there because of righteousness, and everybody's very courteous to each other, respectful. There's a lot of harmony. Everybody's in the mode of goodness. And but on this point, Nahusha said something or did something in there, I forget the details, which really was mode of passion, ignorance. There's no place for the modes of passion, ignorance. Maybe a little passion, but no ignorance in the upper planets. So at this point, instead of becoming perturbed, Indra smiled. Indra was happy. Why was he happy? Because he knew that now Nahusha had crossed the line. He knew from Nahusha's present actions, tinged with the mode of ignorance, that Nahusha's time on the heavenly planets was coming to an end. The sands had run out of the hourglass. He'd been up there for such a long time because he had done so many pious acts in his previous life, but now he'd reached new levels of degradation, new levels of pride, new levels of arrogance, to the point that Indra could recognize at any moment now, he's going to be cast out of the heavenly planets and back down to earth. And sure enough, it wasn't more than a few days later, Nahusha was just rampaging around in the mode of ignorance, standing out like a store thumb And it was almost as if a trap door had opened. He's just walking along a trap door, and he just like just fell through this trap door down from the heavenly planets where he'd been for hundreds of thousands years, down, 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 down. It says when demigods exhaust their pious activities, when they're done, and it's time for them to leave the heavenly planets, the means by which they come down to earth again and take birth is through rainfall. Prabhupada says in one purport that the soul, the spirit soul, which had inhabited the body of a demigod, leaves the body of a demigod, and it enters into a drop of rainwater. It comes down, and then from the rain, it hits the agricultural fields, and that soul transfers from the moisture into a stalk of grain, soy, wheat, barley, millet, and that soul resides within the grain. A man eats the grain, and then the soul enters into a semen, and then through a semen, a female is impregnated. A female could be in the human species, or it could be in any other species. It so happened that Nahusha took birth as a snake, a big fat snake. Later on, he entwined himself around Bhima, and Krishna came and touched his head with Krishna's lotus feet, and he got freed from the ignorance which had caused him to fall out of the heavenly planet. And then he got by Krishna. Now this is also an instructive story, because the only way you can be free from the cycle of karma is by the grace of Krishna, just like the only way you can go from half knowledge to full knowledge is by the descending process through disciplic succession. One has to be the recipient of the mercy of the saints and acharyas, which is non-different from the mercy of Krishna. Similarly, the only way you can get off the Ferris wheel, is there any purpose to our life on earth if we just die and continue to take birth? Is there any escape from the pain of coming back again and again and again and again? Well, yeah, because you're not the body, or not the mind, eternal spirit, designed in the image of Almighty Divine, assigned to a service sublime, attracted by unselfish action, serving the Lord dispassion, acting only for his satisfaction. Devoted souls achieve extraction from karmic reaction. If you want to burn up your karma, practice the dharma, pleasing the Lord, fashioned by his hand, acting according to his plan, and never come back to this material world again. So that's what gets one off the cycle of the Ferris wheel of repeated birth and death. It is the mercy, the Guru Kripa, the mercy of the pure devotee. So similarly, although Nahusha had lived for many, many thousands of years, a heavenly lifestyle on the heavenly planets, once his pious credits were exhausted, he came back down. Not only did he come back to earth, but he took a miserable body as a snake. But due to his good fortune, he came into touch with the Pandavas. He tried to kill Bhima and to eat Bhima. But in the course of that, Krishna came and showed Krishna's causeless mercy. Krishna saw this soul up and down, higher planets, lower planets, higher species, lower. And Krishna's heart just bled for this poor lost soul on the wheel of karma. We got him off the wheel of karma by putting his feet on the head of the serpent. And right before everyone's eyes, he left the body of the serpent and he appeared in a rarefied, fully spiritual, effulgent body. Now, having received the kripa, the mercy of the Lord, he's prepared to go to the next level, which is bhakti. Jnana karmati vimir muktam. Bhakti begins, pure bhakti begins when you're free of jnana, philosophical speculation, when you're free of karma, fruitive activities. At that point, bhakti begins. Bhagavad Gita, the instructions of Krishna to Arjuna, begin pretty much where other scriptures leave off. Where other scriptures, Bible, Torah, and Talmud, Guru Granth Sahib leave off, that's where Bhagavad Gita begins, the highest, most confident, Raja Vidya Raja Guyam. Krishna says over and over to Arjuna, I'm giving to you, my friend and my devotee, Bhakto si me sakachiti. Not because you're a scholar, not because you're a yogi, not because you perform righteous activities and build up good karma. Those are not, none of those are the reasons why I'm giving to you this most confidential knowledge. The reason is Sako Bhakto mi se sakachiti. Saka means you're my friend and you're my devotee. But what Krishna shares with Arjuna is the greatest and most highest, sublime, and blissful level of knowledge that's ever been transmitted, far above and beyond anything else in the spiritual world. And unlike the limitations of karma, unlike the limitations of bhakti, unlike the limitations of karma, and unlike the limitations of jnana and yoga, bhakti just goes on and on and on and on. There isn't any end of bhakti. Once having begun, one goes to progressively higher levels, to santa, to neutral, to friendship, to equality, to servitorship, to friendship, to parental, and ultimately to conjugal love. And there are 5 broad categories of relationships, and living beings who discover their eternal relationship with Krishna in any of those 5 relations, they submerge themselves in an unlimited ocean of service. There's no limit to the service, no limit to the realization, no limit to the songs they can sing to Krishna, no limit to the number of flower garlands or flower arrangements they can, no limit to the number of scents they can offer to the Lord. There's no limit to the dramas they can present to the Lord. There's no limit to the beautiful words of glorification, transcendental Uttama Shloka words that they can give to the Lord, the poems they can write, the songs they can sing, the concerts they can play, the music, the food they can cook. Radharani, the topmost servant of Krishna, said that she's been cooking a different preparation for Krishna every day since when? 10,000 years, 20,000 years, 100,000 years, a million years? No, since forever. Eternally, Radharani. Every day she's found a new recipe to cook and to offer to Krishna, along with the old ones too, along with his ever favorite ones. There's no, and when we get a spiritual master, the significance of that is that the spiritual master never comes to the end of his service. Krishna is inspiring the liberated souls from within how to do more, how to diversify even further, how to variegate their service, how to sing better, how to dance better, how to run better, how to cultivate food, which is then offered to Krishna, how to build more beautiful temples and build more beautiful songs and beautiful concerts and beautiful flower arrangements and beautiful offerings. There's no limit to what the Lord can do through us. We recently had, and we're going to go through at least 4 more years of it, this scarcity mentality, this mood of insult and demeaning and condescension. I go once or twice to Planet Fitness to go on the treadmills. They have CNN and they have Fox. I have to tell you this, and if you stop listening to me because of this, that's so be it. But it just offends me so much that the title, the captions that Fox News puts, so insulting, so demeaning, so depersonalization, and so violent. Really, you read those captions, and if you're an ignorant person, an impulsive, ignorant person, you want to go out and find a Democrat and shoot him. It incites people against each other. It's a strategy of division based on a mentality of scarcity, that what I have, you're going to take it. Limited resources, limited God, limited grace, limited mercy. We go around demeaning, labeling, depersonalizing other people, being scared of what they may take away from us. In America, we're living in $300,000-$400,000 houses. We're driving $50,000 cars. We're taking vacations all over the world, and still we're Scrooge-like. We're Scrooge-like. We're miserable, miserly, possessive, accumulated, little-minded people. We've lost the expansiveness, which was the hallmark of our country. The Statue of Liberty says, bring me your masses, bring your oppressed. I will give them a new chance at honest work and honest living. And now that Statue of Liberty is saying, no, you're rapists, you're murderers, you stay away. And there's nothing that's black and white. There's nothing that's cut and dry. But it's not heartening to see our nation turn into a bunch of Scrooges, a bunch of misers, a bunch of uh, uh, small-minded, trivial, petty, quarrelsome people. What bhakti does is it opens up expansiveness. Horizons expand, panoramic views get even more panoramic. God lives in a world. Chintamani pakara sadmashaka parikshu lakshmibhuti surabhiya bipalyantam. He lives in a world which is populated by hundreds of thousands of goddesses of fortunes, each one of which can give unlimited joy, unlimited bliss, unlimited resources, unlimited abundance to those who put God first place. The cows can give unlimited varieties of milk. The trees can give whatever you want. We're talking about our home, our source having been a world where everything is unlimited, where every species celebrates each and every other species because we're all sons and daughters. We're all parts of the same spiritual family, and we're all being protected not by our skin color, not by our ethnicity, not by our virtues, not by our talents, not by our abilities, but we exist only by the grace of God. By the grace of God. And the abundance mentality means to go through life thanking God, mentally at least, on your knees, and at least under your breath, singing songs of praise to God out of gratitude, not out of small-mindedness, not out of greed, that taking for granted all that we've got and wanting more and more and more and more and more. I read somewhere that the average American, even the American on welfare, is richer than 92% of the people worldwide. And yet, are we happy? Are we satisfied? Are we content to have been blessed by God to a degree that no other country has been blessed? No. We're unsatisfied. We're unhappy. We're bitchy. We're small-minded. We tell lies. We demean. We label. We depersonalize other people. We need to change. We need to get back to our roots. We need to chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That's my message to you. You may like it, you may not, but my message is to chant. Find humility again, find respect again, find courtesy again, find an abundance mentality. It's the only way you and your country will be happy. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So have a good day. Part of the day is fasting till at least noon, increasing our spiritual activities, our chanting, and especially reading Bhagavad Gita. If you're interested in reading the whole Bhagavad Gita, you can do it with the devotees tonight at the Salt Lake City Temple from 5 till 7. We're going to have some sort of a Gita observance here in Spanish Fork, but I was supposed to be picking up Gopinath Priya at 4:40 in Salt Lake City from a connecting flight, Delhi, Amsterdam, Minneapolis, Salt Lake City, but his Delhi flight left 8 hours late, so I'm not sure what time he's going to be coming in. So I may or may not be here tonight, but in any case, we'll do 108 verses of the Bhagavad Gita in a nice arti. In the meantime, if you can't go to a temple, you may have a home altar, so read part of the Bhagavad Gita, read Krishna's words back to him, remind him of what he said about you, the promises he made, and in doing so, remind ourselves that we're parts and parcel. God's mercy, the mercy of his representatives, the previous Ashar, are all that we're made of, and on them we pin hopes for salvation, hopes for joy, hopes for peace, hopes for life everlasting for ourselves and our loved ones. Happy Gita Jayanti. Hare Krishna.